Speaking of deterrence, I mean, the enormous presence of U.S. military in the area is part of it as well.
Right. Well, first, in the beginning, in October, Israel and the United States brought in 2 carrier groups, and I interpreted that differently. So what America is doing is different. People said that was to show strength and backing of Israel, which it was. But I think it was really to deter Israel from attacking, as Gallant had wanted to do, but Bibi and the rest of the cabinet at the time did not want to do. And people think maybe in retrospect that was a mistake. So their current presence now, especially after what happened in April, is a deterrent of what's going there. Iran could also do targeted assassinations. There's a history of Israel's enemies targeting Israeli diplomats around the world that have started wars and conflicts, and so that is another. They have a large playbook, but every day that goes by, I think actually decreases their options. But I think sooner or later there's going to be some escalation. But again, from Israel's perspective, and really what you were getting to, is this an opportunity for Israel to do something significant with Iran? And it doesn't necessarily have to be nuclear. You have Karg Island, you have Bandar Abbas, you have places that could cripple their economy, their fossil fuels.
Yeah, strategic
places that can go that would at least satisfy America. And as far as where they are nuclear-wise, they are in the weaponization phase. And if you go ahead.
Let's listen to the IDF spokesperson.
Good evening. As I've informed you at the beginning of the week, I'm going to continue and inform. Even when there aren't any changes in the Homefront Command instructions, over the past week, we've improved and increased our preparedness. We continue with the gathering and offensive capabilities over the skies of Lebanon and in all other areas. Constantly, we are at peak preparedness, both on the offensive and on the defensive, and we will take action based on the instructions of the government. All the different commands, the Homefront Command, the Intel, and all other divisions are working 24/7, both on the offensive and the defensive. Towards the weekend, we're going to hold a situation estimate. At this point, there is no change in the defensive policy of the Homefront Command. If there will be any changes, we will update immediately. We are constantly on top of things. The alertness and readiness of the general population are important. Please continue to follow the instructions of the Homefront Command and the IDF spokesperson in the different platforms. In the Central Command, IDF forces have arrested 50 wanted individuals throughout the West Bank preventing any kind of threats. In a joint operation of the IDF in the Shin Bet, a main terrorist was killed in exchange of fire, and 4 others were killed from an air assault. In addition, IDF soldiers found charges and confiscated many means of warfare. The IDF forces continue to maneuver in Gaza, in Khan Yunis, and in the center of the Gaza Strip and everywhere necessary. So far, we have killed over 17,000 terrorists. As part of the significant achievements on the ground over the past week, we have exterminated and destroyed 50 underground tunnels. We are focusing on the targeting and neutralizing of all of the underground infrastructure. Not all of them are active tunnels. Some are old that have been addressed in the past, and yet we are neutralizing all of them with determination. The Chief of General Staff came to Rafah yesterday in order to approve the plans on the ground and to prepare all options and opportunities for taking action on the ground. According to the instructions of the government, the significant combat and warfare are definitely detrimental to the ability of Hamas to recover and take action. In recent days, Hamas has spread some manipulative information about the fate of the hostages. That's in order to create psychological terror and to terrorize all Israelis. The purpose of the war is to bring back 115 hostages. This target is still our main focus 24/7. We are taking action with all of the security mechanisms, even as we are speaking, in order to create the conditions for bringing them back as soon as possible. Questions? Good evening, Meir Turgeman from Yediot Achronot, Ynet. From the New York Times, we hear that some American officials have said that they believe that the IDF has exhausted its capabilities, and John Kirby has joined these comments as well. What does the IDF have to say about these comments? Have you indeed exhausted your capabilities, your fighting capabilities in Gaza? We have significant achievements in Gaza. We are going to continue to dismantle Hamas. That is our task, and we're going to continue and do everything we can in order to prepare the conditions for the return of the hostages. These are the goals set by the government, and we are going to fully realize them. Can 11 News. There will be.
All right, frankly, no major news, but IDF spokesman says no change in conditions, in general public security conditions, and also was asked, Shuri, about what was published today in the New York Times. There's an assertion both inside Israel and also elsewhere, as was quoted in the New York Times, that the IDF has not much else to do in Gaza anymore.
Well, this is a narrative the American administration has been trying to push for since the war started. We've been hearing it from the Egyptian intelligence as well and others. There's a lot of people who believe that we can't defeat Hamas. Again, I believe it will take a long time, but doesn't mean it's not possible. There are two key issues. Again, the hostages. If they weren't for the hostages, we'd be in a different scenario. And because we would work a lot faster. The damage that we're doing, the achievement will take a lot less time, and it will be a different story. And the second most important issue is what the day after. Who controls Gaza, who does the rehabilitation, and the most important, and I keep pointing to this point because we don't speak enough about it, who's in charge of the education. I think UNRWA should be disassembled, at least taking part by part. If you want to have a totally humanitarian organization, fine, but there's no need for a UN refugee organization. There are so many refugees around the world. They're the only one who's getting it. And we saw what happens with the schools and the workers, and that must be stopped.
From the military standpoint, I mean, the assertion is body count is not going to make the change. The Hamas is really badly hit by the IDF, and there's not much more to achieve by continuing this war.
Well, I think if you stop now, the gains and the sacrifices that have been made, and this will weaken Israel and weaken America because Hamas will come back. I've spent another day with one of the elite units yesterday. There is so much more that is going on that is not even being reported. This was a politically motivated article that basically is telling Israel to stop because in election season this will be good that as an achievement.
Well, I have to tell you, it's widely also conceived in Israel. You see this, there are a lot of military experts saying the same thing.
I feel confident in spending a lot of time and have been embedded with quite a few battalions over the last 10 months.
And they're telling you they should continue the war.
Absolutely. And the idea when I ask them, and this goes in the field, right to left, secular and religious, the idea of giving up the Netzaim crossing, the giving up the Philadelphia crossing, Hamas will be back, and the sacrifices will be in vain.
All right. Now, to the northern part of Israel, there, another day of fire exchanges with Hezbollah. 24 News' Zach Anders is there live with the latest. Zach?
Hi, good afternoon. We're in Nahariya, and it's a bit of a testy afternoon. 6 attacks that Hezbollah has claimed responsibility for. The one around 2:30 this afternoon was the largest, about 25 rockets, and potentially also a drone, the IDF says, at that barrage that was targeting Samir, which is for the first time, by our understanding, that kibbutz has been under fire. Now, they've had plenty of red alarms in this area, but it's the first time that Hezbollah claims that they have targeted this kibbutz directly. Not entirely sure what the purpose is behind that, but they say that that's part of an escalation on their part for the attacks yesterday in southern Lebanon that wounded over a dozen people in targeted airstrikes that were going after multiple different Hezbollah men. We know of at least 3 airstrikes that took place targeting vehicles and a motorcycle. That was yesterday afternoon. We were expecting there was going to be some sort of large response, given that these attacks appeared to be hitting pretty hard.
All right, Zach, thank you very much for your live report. And that's two. The Tel Aviv Museum stashed away art objects like paintings by Pablo Picasso and Gustav Klimt. That's another precaution in the face of a possible missile attack. Jody Notilovich has more.
So on this net, right on the other side of the Klimt, we have some works by Picasso. All of these ones there, this one as well, from different periods. They are all usually in the gallery. They are all usually hung right next to each other. And here they are still next to each other, but in a completely different setting.
In scenes bearing some resemblance to Europe in World War II, a gallery in the Tel Aviv Museum of Art has been left bare as pieces are removed from the walls. But instead of moving the art across borders, it's being relocated to protected spaces beneath the museum. The most prized of these pieces being stored in rows of metal grills.
Actually, we are custodian of these important works of art that survived the World War II, and most of them. So it is important to perpetuate this treasure for the next generation.
After October 7th, as rockets fired nonstop into Israel, museum staff moved artwork to safety.
We're just super scared that rockets will penetrate the ceiling of the galleries and cause damage to our works. We decided to take down our most valuable works to the safe, all hanging on nets. Right beside me is a portrait by Gustav Klimt, and on the left are 3 works by Jackson Pollock.
Recent threats from Iran and its proxy groups have meant moving even more pieces from their display.
In these last days, in the last 3, 4, 5 days, when this new threat from Hezbollah and from Iran came on the table again, we understood that we needed to take other precautions. So we took down several other works of art, and the ones that we felt that were most in danger. Since the situation is not going to be clear, and this threat is always there, we feel that the safe place for them is downstairs in the shelters.
Ceasefire and hostage negotiation talks taking place Thursday have pushed off the imminent attack for a short while. And in the meantime, exhibitions of some of the relocated artworks are occasionally held in the museum's protected area.
We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back with Middle East Now. Stay tuned.